Well, hello everyone. I'm Shelly Sanchez Terrell, and we are actually going to be screening this. Sorry about that. I hope that it's fine for you and that you can see it. So you'll have to let me know whether or not you can. We're actually talking about digital safety and citizenship, and that means that I can't see the messages really. You can see that I can see the little one. Yay! Okay, good. So we'll do it this way. Good, good. Okay, so we're going to talk today about digital safety and citizenship. And welcome to American TESOL Presents Brief Webinars. I'm Shelly Sanchez Terrell, and every Friday we are here in many different countries. And in each country, I come to you, even if we have some problems with the internet. So this week I am in Venezuela, and we are also offering an ESL tech course for those who are part of American TESOL, and you can get credit and certification for that. If you're attending this webinar and you're not part of the ESL tech course, that's okay. You can also get a certificate of attendance for coming today. And so we welcome you wherever you're from. You can find many resources at shellyterrell.com/citizenship. That's where you can find the bookmarks and you can find your assignments and stuff in esltech.com. I really love talking citizenship. When we enter and do our first text, when we do our first typing on the computer, now that is very different than what it used to mean 20 years ago and 10 years ago. We have entered as citizens citizen in a new society, a digital society. And people say that citizenship is not separate, and they're right, but they're wrong. Here's why. There's a little bit more responsibilities you have when you're citizenship of our digital society. And everyone who has ever sent a text, a tweet, or used a digital device becomes members of that society. But in that society, it's different than our society. And the reason why it's different is because it's made it different. In other words, just like it says here, a computer does not substitute for judgment more than the pencil will teach literacy. And it doesn't say that per se, but that's what it means. The student will not learn literacy from a pencil. And a student will not learn judgment or how to be a good citizen just by a computer. The student needs the teacher. And so it's important that we teach citizenship and how to be good, do good, responsible action and commit good, responsible acts when we use our devices. The reason why is because we have a responsibility. Every like, every time we share a picture, every time we retweet, we repost, we reshare, we are spreading an idea, we're spreading a value, and we are changing people's minds. We are influencing their behavior, their purchases, their customs, their traditions, and their rituals. So the way that we carried ourselves in our rituals 10 years from now, 5 years ago, is very different than it is now. And for our learners, it's very different and it will continue to change. And if we don't make sure that we spread good digitally, then our students are very much in danger of not having values that make them feel good about themselves. They have rituals and traditions and customs that will be lost forever if we don't start teaching them how to act responsibly. And the thing is that most of us are afraid that our students are going to be going to misbehave online. Well, they already misbehave online, and what's going to happen is actually when you start teaching citizenship, your students are going to mess up. They're actually going to probably use bad words. They're probably going to make grammar mistakes. They're probably going to do something offensive. And we have to be able to correct that behavior. So they have to make those mistakes. We have to face those mistakes. If we don't, then we cannot correct that behavior and show them a better way. So, to kind of get you to think about this more, I want you to think about, and you can type in the chat box. Are these any of the things that you actually do online? If I can see the chat box just a little bit there. Yes, yes, okay, good. Do any of you tweet, share images? Have any of you shared um, an image of where you were? You ever shared an image on Facebook? Have you ever updated a status? Have you ever used filters? Filter today means something very different than it meant years ago. Have you ever LOL'd? And I think the fascinating thing is that you have to imagine that someone took a selfie of themselves, just an ordinary person. And I have a little bit of the box so you can see all of this. One day, somebody just did this, named it a selfie. They took a picture of themselves online and said a selfie. And now everybody does that. But the reason everybody does that is because everyone, that person needed people to like that and share that word. And now it has been accepted in dictionary. So our students, when they're online, they actually have to where they influence not only what is accepted now, um, but they also influence how we act and what we accept. So it's important that we start teaching them about digital footprints. But the only way we can do that is to think of our digital footprint. So in the chat box, I want you to type in, what was your first digital publication? So this is your digital footprint. What was the first social network you joined? And what was the first avatar you put? Now I'm going to show you what an avatar is in a little bit, but an avatar is basically the picture of, for example, yeah, Joe, actually, that was mine too. MySpace was the first social network, that, or it must have been, it was either MySpace, was it, and also Instant Messenger. I used to use Instant Messenger on Hotmail. I did Hotmail account with my students, and that was one of the first social networks I've used as well. Instant Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, and also yes, MSN, exactly. That was one of the first ones I did. Some people, like my parents, their first social network was Yahoo. I mean, was AOL, and they used to be on the AOL chats and things like that. And AOL, they're still on AOL. I actually joke about that with them, and they, of course, get a little upset about it, but but they still use their AOL. Um, what was your first digital publication? In 1996, I started a, yes, email would be one of the first digital publications as well. That's it was sent to somebody else. Even before email were these list servers. So if you did a list server, that could be one of the first places you to publish the message. So one of the first places that I ever published was actually a GeoCities account. In 1996, I went to college, and I chose, my professor said, you can either learn in my class, or you can create your own website and learn HTML by yourself on a um, by yourself. And so I chose to go by myself, not because he wasn't interesting. I also went to class as well, but I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to learn HTML. So I set up a site on GeoCities called Shelly's Personal Heaven, and it had little clouds, I remember, that were animated. First avatar. Avatar means a picture. And it's your first picture of what you represented yourself as. So if a site like Facebook or anything has ever asked you, I remember the first avatar I had. I'll tell you a little about it later, in a little bit when we learn a little about avatars. But I remember that it wasn't even my real name. It was my first avatar. So the reason why this is as a teacher, the average number of students a classroom teacher impacts throughout their life is 3,000. And if you imagine that every single year you teach about, let's say if you teach for 20 years, and if you take 20 years, you divide it by 30, then that's about 150 students a year that you would teach. Some of you may teach less than 150 students per year. You may have, many of us, you may have like 4 or 5 classes of 40 different students. So if you think that you have 4 classes of 40 different students, that's 160 students. So about 3,000 is what you would impact. So you have to really consider what kind of an impact you want to make. How many citizens do you want to send out there, and what do you want them to do? Because your students, each of those 3,000 actually impacts billions, because now they have a computer, a digital device, and when they're on the computer, they will have an audience. Even if it's a text message, you have an audience. A lot of the students here use WhatsApp, and there's a lot of different places where you get to impact and talk with each other. Everything we share inside the chat box, we learn from each other, and that's a very good thing. So in this webinar, we are impacting each other, we're learning from each other, but there are other places around that have a bigger audience. So here we have about 20. But if you go onto Snapchat, that's this one here, the social network, then you have millions on there. Instagram, you have millions on there. Vine, you have millions. YouTube has actually billions of users on YouTube. Um, you have on Skype many different as well. LinkedIn, you have Hangouts, you have Pinterest, and all of these have millions of people who use them. We share. The other thing to note is that with each of these social networks, you share differently. Each of these, so what I've been doing for the past 4 years is studying different social networks. And I study who are the most followed, how they speak to everyone that follows them, because they are the leaders of that community. So each of this, Instagram has its own community, it has its own language, and sometimes the language, and it has its own and rituals. I did an experiment on Instagram. I posted, and it revolves around pictures. That is the main way you communicate. But I posted a bunch of selfies, and I posted them. I was part of the research I'm doing. I posted a bunch of selfies on for a little while, and I did it on Instagram, and then I also posted them on Facebook. Now, the interesting part about it is that on Instagram, wow, you look nice, you look beautiful, very positive comments and likes, and I got a lot more likes. When I posted on Facebook, Facebook has different rules. There are different leaders and followers on Facebook. You have a like there versus here you have a heart. Here you have sharing. You have, there's a lot of differences. When I posted on Facebook, I had a lot of people that actually messaged me privately and said they were concerned about me and if I was okay and if I needed, if I had self-esteem issues. So you can see that depending on the place that you interact, you have your own social rules and norms, and there are things that are not accepted. If I went on Twitter and I posted a bunch of selfies, then many of you would say, Shelly, have you gone nuts? So I think that's definitely something to look at there. LinkedIn, you would think I'm definitely nuts. So now you have to imagine now, okay, you remember your digital footprint. Now compare digital footprint with a student's digital footprint. Think of your one of your students now, or even one of your teachers. So a lot of my students, I do have college students now, so I'm very excited about that. But a lot of my students, like Dr. Monte there, are teachers, and I actually teach at a college now. And right now, I'm teaching at the University of Carabobo in Venezuela. But think of your students right now. What was their first digital publication? What was their first social network? What was their first avatar? One of the first digital publications, that they'll probably have, or first social networks, they here, many of them, one of their first social networks was WhatsApp. Many of them use WhatsApp. Many of them, when my first avatar was not a picture of myself, it was actually animated, or it was some kind of cartoon, I remember. And it was that avatar was called Rainy. But my first a student's first avatar would probably be their own picture, or it may be a game avatar. One of their first avatars might be something that they would have put on a PlayStation, or something that they put on a social gaming site. So it's interesting. One of the first digital publication, by publication I mean now every time that you write on the web, or you write with your mobile device and you press send, you are publishing written words. So even a text message is a digital publication. Um, um, if you send tweet, that's a digital publication. If you do a podcast, that's a digital publication. If you make a video, that's digital publication. So your first digital publication for students, some of it might be, we recently at the Reform Symposium conference, and Peggy George was a coordinator for that. We had a 9-year-old, and he's the one who taught me about YouTube and YouTubers, and he's somebody that I referenced and interviewed for, the for my research. And so he was telling me one of his first digital publications was actually creating a YouTube videos. Those were some of his initial ones at 9 years old, and that's actually how he learned English. So that was his first social network. I didn't well, actually his first social network was Minecraft. He got to learn with other students, so it's basically a social way of playing. His first avatar was a Minecraft avatar, and then from there he went to YouTube. So it's very interesting when you think about it. When I train my teachers, we create avatars. This is an avatar, and we start with children's avatars that look like cartoon. Wildself.com is one of the popular ones. So this is, you can keep track of my online student course. You can see their work if you go to the hashtag storytelling and tap. Have to do tweet it, but they also have to create a character for their avatar. They have to say what is their avatar's profession, how old is their avatar, and they can make up anything about their avatar. Now, this was one of my other avatars, and I try to make it more lifelike. This is me. So my other alter ego, my avatar on Second Life is Rainy. It's Rainy, but look, she has a pug. So you can see it's me. That's me with Roscoe, my pug, and this is Rainy on Second Life with Roscoe, her pug. So it's very what an avatar is. It's a digital representation of you. It does not have to be a cartoon. It can actually be yourself. So me putting this on Facebook, this actual picture here, is also my avatar as well. So an avatar is a graphical representation. It's usually an image. It could be something like a telegami, a boki, any of those, of you. It's of you, and it could be either real things about yourself, like on Twitter. I use my real name, Shelly Sanchez Terrell. It's Shell Terrell, and it says my location, things like this. It says I'm a teacher, trainer, an author, things like that. But on Second Life, it's different. I have an alter ego, and there are reasons for that. It could be three-dimensional. It can be in a virtual world, in a game. It could even be in your digital society. Some of us choose to be cats and stuff. Some of us choose to be cartoons. Some of us choose to post our kids. Some of us choose to post a symbol. So your avatar does not necessarily have to be, like I said, a cartoon. There are many different things you can do with avatars, and that's kind of the first. When I teach kids, that's one of the first ways you can get them to really think about what it means to be a citizen. So after they create an avatar, then and even teenagers, because there's avatar sites for teenagers, and even adults, there's avatar making sites for adults. One of the most famous ones for adults is Bitstrips. You see a lot of a lot of adults will make Bitstrip cartoons, and it looks just like them. They come out on Facebook. So this is one way that you get people when they create an avatar. then they're creating a person. And when they create a person, then you say, look, this is your citizen, this is your person. This person, when they walk into the digital world, they have responsibilities. In other words, their choices and their actions will influence everyone around them. So it is your responsibility to make sure that your actions spread positive, meaningful, and something like laughter is positive trait. So if it's a meme and it's funny, like a grumpy cat, that's still okay. But what we want to avoid, and you can have that conversation, you want to have that conversation, what is a good value, what is a good feeling, what is good emotion that you want from others? Even debating, even intelligent debate and criticism and reviews are definitely good actions. But we want to make sure we can differentiate um, between negative stuff. So you can see a lot of stuff avatars, including a whole entire webinar. You'll see it in my Pearl Trees, and I've added that to the bookmarks I've already put up with you. Here's one that a lot of adults actually use. I've seen them use this on Twitter as well. But they have one for kids as well. If you go to reasonablyclever.com, they have the Lego. You can make yourself into, you can Lego yourself. So there's one for kids, and there's one for adults. A lot of sites nowadays, when you use web browsers and things like that, they allow you to choose avatars. My students, I was working with 4 to 10-year-olds, well, 2 to 10-year-olds in Germany. So that was one of the ways I got my parents to actually allow me to post things about them and post their creations online. Is that I had a workshop with the parents, and I told them, look, this is going to be the avatars that they make. So here you have my student, and he's on VoiceThread, and he's using his cartoon avatar. Now this is Doppelme character. This is from Doppelme, and I really like Doppelme. I really like, for example, Doppelme bit strips. Ones that buddy avatar. I like the ones that make them look like real characters. Okay, because then they look like real people. And then you can have the ones that are 3D. So you can actually see examples of ones we did. Me and Erzge curriculum. And what she and I did was we got our students to create Boki avatars. And these students are 4 to 6 years old. And they tell us, they say, I am this person. This is my favorite thing. They put the backgrounds they got to choose are their hobbies. So this one likes, what can you guess this one likes? Of course, likes soccer. How about this avatar? Who do you think that this avatar actually wants to be a teacher when she grows up, an English teacher. She's already decided that at 6 years old. So that's very, very nice. It's very cute. And some of them choose to be animals because that's their favorite animal, so you can hear that. Great thing is if you go with the 3D avatar, and Boki has some for adults as well. I've used Boki with adult learners as well. Boki is really good because they have lesson plans. So you can find a lesson plan if you go to ESL, ELL, but they also have for math, they have for science, they have for world languages, they have for speaking different languages. The other thing, so this is actually from my students. So my students, this is what they did. They were able to choose any avatar they wanted, any avatar creation, and tell us who this was. They had to make up a story and a character. This one was a student who liked dancing, and it says, the talents, I dance well. The author is Gemma, and these were actually one of my teachers. This was her student who did this. This one is Lulu. She's age 9. She's a female. She's a student as a profession. She likes to sing. She also likes Hello Kitty, and she dances flamenco. Now, these were students from Spain who did. She likes reading. She plays the piano. Now, the thing about it is when they made these with the me, okay, and they got to choose and make choices, one of the things that you have is whether or not you ask them questions afterwards You ask them questions about why they made that choice. So sometimes this asks about their self image. Why did you give yourself blue eyes? Why did you make yourself taller or thinner? Why did you choose these colors? Why did you choose this profession? And that begins a real discussion with kids and teens about their digital identity and their image. So let me see if I have. Okay, so good, good. Okay, good. I just want to make sure that the chat, you all were still able to see me. And sorry if some of you had to go. There will be a recording, and you'll get that later. So according to Lisa Tran, who is one of the people who did these studies about avatars, she said that avatars can reconstruct famous monuments. So you can have students go and actually be in a context. They can go in different virtual worlds. And that's one of the great things about Minecraft. In Minecraft, and even Second Life, and even different ones like students have some. They have some for children. They have like where they moshi monsters and things like that, telegami. I mean, they have where they can have virtual environments and actually interact with the details. And they can actually become avatars in the past. So you can make it historical as well. And this, of course, is a picture of some of my PLN on Twitter. And you can see some of them, these are all adults, and some of them have chosen to be avatar cartoons. Some of them have chosen logos, some of them have chosen animals, some of them have chosen themselves, but you can't see the light. Some of them have chosen themselves. Some of them have also chose different icons. So even us as adults, I remember when I was teaching students, my teachers, and they said, this isn't relatable to my adult students. And I said, that's not true, because even adults have their own avatars as well. So we can have those digital safety discussions, but even more powerful is we create virtual learning communities. So your students need to practice what it is to be a citizen and what it is to publish online with you. The only way they're going to do that is if you give them a learning space to do that. For me, you can do it in a private space, so if they do mess up, they can go back and they can correct it, or you can make it completely public. So one of the places that is the most popular is Edmodo. Edmodo is a really great place because it can be private. You invite through a community. You can give them just a login password. They don't need necessarily to create. They don't need an email address. Edmodo makes it to where it's sort of like a Facebook for students and teachers. If you haven't heard of it, Schoology does the same. I prefer Edmodo. Lots of teachers Schoology. I think it's a preference. Now you have Google Classroom, but you also have Google Community. Google Community is for 13-year-olds and older. Edmodo you can use for children as well. You just have to get permission and stuff. There's Cell.ly. I think that's more for the US. So if you're a social network based on web apps, so like mostly it would be a lot of messaging back and forth. So a lot of people like that. Kid Blog is a great place if you have young students, children under 13, they can use it. EduBlogs is another great place. Wix, Weebly, Instagram, Wikis, just put a space online to use with your students. When you do have a space with students, every time they, even if only to each other, it's important you ask them these questions every single day. So citizenship is not something that's separate from the curriculum. It can be something as simple as reminding them every time before they go home, what social networks are you going to use today? And they'll probably raise their hands and tell you Snapchat. Maybe they'll say WhatsApp. Maybe they'll say they'll play a game online. Okay, so how are you going to use the computer today? And then say, when you act, the way you act online, how is it going to impact people around you? How is it going to impact your community? How is this going to spread digital pollution? Will your act spread digital pollution? When you like something, is that going to make someone laugh? Is that going to make someone feel bad about themselves? Are you picking on a certain population? Or are you preventing digital pollution? So I'm actually doing a new kind of movement called Bite-Size Potential, and we will be biting back, BYTE, bites. With our bites, we will bite back against digital pollution. We will put positive action to negate cyberbullying, to negate things like sexting, to negate things about negative representations of ourselves online. And it's important to ask them questions about the future because a lot of times they're interested in the now. They're interested on how many likes they're going to get now, how many reshares, how many reposts, how many retweets, how many reblogs. If they're on Tumblr, how many reblogs. And so they don't understand how many subscribers on YouTube. So they don't understand, they don't get it in their mind the future, and it's not future careers. So we need to not focus so much on their career, but what we need to focus on is how is this message that they're putting now gonna make a parent feel, a sibling feel, a friend feel, and additionally, if they ever want to have a meaningful relationship in the future, how is that going to make a future partner feel about them? How is that going to make future friends feel about them? If friends see what they posted last year and one of those posts gets out viral, are friends going to trust them if they talked bad about other people? Are these really going to be their friends? So these are good questions that we can ask them every day and remind them. Something that you can say, your act, make it meaningful. Make a meaningful act. So a lot of times I'm actually doing little different lessons and stuff to where you can actually do this. So what does that look like? What does it look like to do a positive act as well? So one of the positive acts that they have is where they actually take a Pierce device, and it could be if you work with digital cameras, if you work with iPads, if you work with cell phones, if you work with devices that just take pictures like flip cams, you could do this. So they get the device, and what they do is they have to make creative selfies that will make their friend, him or her, smile or laugh. And so we've just done where we've had something very simple. They didn't need the internet, they didn't need anything. All they did was take a picture on their friend's device, and they surprised them with making very funny or silly. I just did this with 300 people and it worked very well. So what we're doing is we're showing how their digital acts, even a selfie, they can make a positive selfie, they can make good selfies, they can make selfies or self images that make their friend do something good, smile or laugh. So this is something that you can even do with young learners as well. For little kids, if you don't want to show what they look like, and this is when I was in Sylvania, what you can do is you can animal, you can give them a character. Like I had Hello Kitty and I had this robot for the boys, and you give each student one. A lot of times they do this. Flat Stanley. Flat Stanley is a good one to know about. Sometimes I've seen the first graders do this with a teddy bear, and they take it and they have to make selfies of with that character. So that selfie, those characters can have an epic adventure, and you can show them different examples. You can even show them this slide so they can show they can see how they can manipulate the camera, how they can make the camera give a selfie, like, and how they can make it interesting. And this really helps them with their identity as well. This helps them show, what kind of a person do you want to be? Do you want to have where your pictures online show that you went on adventures, or do you want things just where it's like in a bathroom? So, I mean, I think these are very good to do as well. Now, if you're teaching, when you're teaching math and science, that's part of the curriculum that I'm writing for this as well. Things like how you can check how many likes you got, what kind of selfies or what kind of pictures got more likes than others, how you can study the statistics. And when you do the statistics, how you can apply those statistics to get more people to spread your pictures because we're doing good digital acts. So there is science and math behind it as well. How you can study and you can make info pics and you can do different types of things as well. So the other part of it, and the last part of it before we go, is parents and safety. It's important we get parents involved. And the way we educate them, well, I have a lot of, you go to shellyterrell.com/survival tips parent, you find tons and tons of resources on how to engage such parents. So the first thing is that you have to get the parents together and give them either a message or a Google Doc. I like to send a Google Doc because you can translate that in many different languages. And I get that all the parents email, because email is still very much the way they contact, and their numbers, so I can text them. Nowadays, parents like to, you can ask them permission to text them and just send them like a message once a week or something, and give them options. Do you want to be notified every day about homework and things? And they're really great. Remind 101 is a really, well, it's not Remind 101 anymore. It's remind.com. Remind.com is a great way to let parents know and give them notices about, what's going on in the classroom. So these are things that you can do. Class Dojo is another one now. So parents need to know what tools how you're going to keep their students safe, and not only children. You can do this with what's now called a responsible use policy. It used to be called an acceptable use policy. Now, and the reason I kept acceptable is because if you Google AUP, you find lots of examples. If you Google RUP, or responsible use policy, not so much. So Google AUP, and that's where you're going to get the good examples. And this is what it kind of looks like. So what you do is you have to have the parent sign what they're okay with. You also have your students come up with statements like I will do this, and it's a good what they commit to acting. They basically come up, you talk to each other and you come up with a code of conduct with your students. That's what I do. I talk with my high school students, or I talk with the children, and I say what do we need to do online. We sit in a circle, usually on pillows. We talk about this. I write it all down, and then I put this in our Google Doc, or somebody can type it up in the Google Doc while we're coming up with these rules. And then I use I will statements. I will post, publish things that I am proud of. I will publish work free of curse words, and they come up with the rules and then they sign it. It's like a contract they made with you. The reason I think that these are powerful as I will statements is because what I've done in the past is I bring out that paper and I show it to the student and I say, look, this is what you promised. This is the contract you signed with me. You broke this contract, and I'll actually go and I'll point out what they broke. And then I just point it out, and then they reflect on it. They really reflect on it, and then we go from there and we say, now this is why you have to pay this consequence, or because of your action, this is what has to happen. You're not going to be able to use the device for today or something, whatever it is. David Truss has a great wiki. It's called raisingdigitalkids.wikispace.com. He actually has materials that are part of a parent workshop he did. So how do you manage a parent workshop? You have a workshop with parents, you want them to attend. A lot of them go to work. Feed them. I'll give them certain dishes like my 7-layer dip. That is something that's substantial they can eat that they may not get. I entice them with food. Just like you want to go to meetings with food, so do the parents. You can give them, you get someone to sponsor it, Edmodo, if you're telling Edmodo, hey, you know what, we're gonna learn about Edmodo in the parent workshop. Would you have anything to donate? And sometimes they'll donate things, so you can give them a little discovery, like a little bag of goodies, a welcome package. You can, and in that welcome package, one of the best things I ever got was a flash drive. If you give them a flash drive, you can put in the flash disk, you can put in all of the acceptable use policy, how to reach you. You can put in all the necessary documents that are great for the parents to have. A plan for daycare. So we usually do this in a group. The teachers I've worked with, we've done 3, and then one of them or 2 of them will show a movie with the kids, or there's a place that the kids can go to, and parents really appreciate that. You can have them learn with icebreakers. Some of the digital icebreakers that I do with the students, I have the parents do as well. I also let them play with some of the tools. If you can have computers and let them play, then that's a good one. So all of this can be found in Bite-Sized Potential, the bookmarks I left. On there, if you go, you'll see parents, kids safety, teens, and then these are the separate links for them. You'll find like different quandary. A great way to learn about digital citizenship is for students to play games. You can find the PBS Kids. You can find contracts. You can find adventure games they can play where they actually become webinauts. The webinauts here, they get certificates and stuff for playing a game and learning about internet safety. I found some for teens as well, games that are good for teens. A YouTube channel where they have to press A, B, or C. They're presented with a case study and they have to choose A, B, or C. And depending on that choice, these are the consequences. This is what happened. So some good infographics. Quandary is the latest thing that teachers love. It is a game that you can play with your students. Usually, I think it's from 8 years old to about 14. You can play, and it has them play and make good choices. And the thing I love about it is that it lets them know, it says, shape the future of a new civilization. In other words, it shows them what it means to be a citizen. And when we're citizens of a society, when we're a community, when we think of ourselves as citizens and how we impact our whole society or community in a place. So when we're in Instagram, we're part of the Instagram community. We are part of that citizen. In Instagram, we have different rules and behaviors and language that we agree to or we should agree to impact the society in a good way. So these are good things to teach students, and I think Quandary does that. So if you're part of the tech course, this was your topic, your assignment, your task, your mission is to go and choose one of those resources, and you're creating a lesson plan that will show a particular age group and how you're going to teach them about digital safety. Now, what I don't want to see is take a digital safety quiz because this is not a good way to teach students um, about digital safety. Don't give them quizzes. Don't give them boring ways to learn about digital safety. Have them play a game. Have them role play. If you don't have technology, that's okay. They can role play what they just learned. They can create infographics. But the last thing you want them to do is memorize and tell you what they learned because that means they didn't learn it. You want to see it in action. You want to have them make the actual choices and go through the steps. You can contact me in all of these places. And of course, you can always go to shellyterrell.com/citizenship and you'll find the bookmarks and everything. Here's my email. Some of you were asking about the email and I couldn't type it, but shellyterrell@gmail.com. You can, of course, get me on Twitter, Facebook. You can go to Amazon and you can find my 30 Goals book or as well. So I'm going to go ahead and end this webinar because it's lasted a little while. And thank you so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and try and get us back on the screen share here and stop sharing so you can see me. I don't know if it's going to, and we're back. Yay, we're back. And you can, I'm going to go ahead and end this webinar and you can see us